Namaskar. Welcome everyone. We are very short on people, short of people, but it is what it is, and we have a good new course. And without further ado, I will just start it. So here's the presentation. So the name of the course is roughly The Science of Tantra Yoga. So unit 0, which we start today, is Foundations and Context. So course designers are Nirmal and Madhuvidya is you can say, the design person, the visual, the art design. So each meeting should take 30 to maximum 45 minutes, but we'll really keep it 30. So today I will facilitate, and normally me, Max or Madhuvidya will take turns to facilitate. So brief introductions. Because everybody knows each other, we'll just skip this one because everyone knows each other. Japesh, you know both of them, right?
I
Madhuvidya,
mean, not Max,
okay,
but
there you
even
go. So
these additional details, not really. So this is interesting.
you
So
can just
yes,
take a read. You can take a read. I will not really take much time to read this, but pretty much Max has background in computer science. He studies right now. So background in healthcare admin and so on and so forth. My cat is screaming for some reason or crying. Madhuvidya, Academy of Art and Design, working on architectural visualizer in 3D. Cat is really crying. I don't know. So interested in psychology counseling, very interesting. So good. So the way of this course is by popular demand. So the interest is to see the study practices for Tantra Yoga, which we have already kind of started, but like really focusing, viewing them through different lens of philosophy, psychology, cultural, you can say, perspectives, and science. So cultivate more mindfulness, self-discipline, self-awareness through traditional and modern applications, and explore cognitive, psychological, physiological impacts of meditation, chanting, movement, and breath work. So the essential questions that we will be trying to answer, among all others, are these. How do Tantra yoga practices contribute to mental, physical, and spiritual well-being? And what are the philosophical, scientific, and psychological foundations of meditation, asanas, breath work, and other practices, specifically within the Ananda Marga tradition and other similar contemplative practices? How does the Ananda Marga tradition integrate biopsychology and spiritual development? So content understanding, we will focus on history, meaning, context of Tantra Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, and the role in the holistic well-being of a human being. Holistic being of a human being. Holistic well-being. The science behind meditation, breath control, physical yoga postures, and other practices, and the role of character education and ethical development in spiritual practice. So assessments, of course, very informal, but basically you are invited to journal, to write your journals. You can keep them informal. You're welcome to create some posters, visual work, to write poems, songs, drawings, insights, lessons, whatever. You're encouraged to really express your personality. No need, possibly, in the end, you are invited to kind of lead a guided meditation or kirtan or asana practice to see that you've retained it and demonstrate some theoretical knowledge behind it. Or you can engage in creative pursuits like, poetry. I already said that, but if you are willing to, you can share it in some of the sessions further down the line. So formative or ongoing assessments I already mentioned. You're welcome to do some journaling, to just kind of spend 3-5 minutes per day or less, so not every day, to sorry, yeah, I'm not alone. So yeah, thinking, feeling how it affects your life. So some of the books and other resources that you are welcome to overview, like the core ones are these. Those who are interested in history of Tantra are welcome to read this book. I think it's quite interesting. And the second one is a little bit more lengthy, very respected by the tantric scholar of Tantra. It's called Tantra Illuminated Philosophy, History, and Practice. And the third one is for those who are more interested in the, you can say, the foundation, you can say the spiritual rationale behind the practices of Tantra, and more on the history. So there are Discourses of Tantra, volumes 1 and 2 by Sri Shanandamurti, and also his book on biopsychology, which the book is called as Yoga Psychology, actually. It's not called the biopsychology, it's called Yoga Psychology, but it covers the topic of biopsychology. So I will now share the syllabus very briefly and overview it. Just what's going on so you have understanding, and those who are possibly watching at their free time can do the same. So the unit first is foundations and context. We will do introductions of Tantra yoga practices, culture, philosophy. Then in the session 2, we'll cover the Anandamarga tradition, biopsychology, and the 5 layers of mind. Then we will really start with the first unit on meditation. We'll cover different cross-cultural views of meditation from perspectives like Buddhism, like Tantra yoga, historical context, symbolic meaning, and so forth. Session 4 is a little bit going into science of meditation. We're going to engage into neuroscience and biology of meditation, integrating with biopsychology and other things like 5 layers of the mind, which is a Tantra yogic conception. Transition into session 5, which is psychological and cognitive impact of meditation, rather where there's some rationale from the perspective of developmental psychology, so social, and some cognitive effects and skills that it engages. Session 6 will cover art and meditation. And then we go into unit 2, which is kirtan. So just to give you an overall view, the course will take approximately 3 to 4 months. And each unit includes, different number of sessions. And they're all numbered in this syllabus. You can view it and refer to it. So unit 2 is on kirtan, cultural and psychological perspectives, and science of singing and kirtan. And then the combined summary of meditation and kirtan. This is basically a summary session to recap, to share our journals, our thoughts, and so on and so forth. So unit 3 is on asanas, physical yoga practice. We will cover philosophical, cultural context of asanas. And then session 2 will cover scientific analysis of asanas. And then unit 4, we will start on character value education. We'll look more in depth on yama and niyamas. And then the next session will cover social and pedagogical approaches to character education. Outside of holistic education, we'll cover some other pedagogies like experiential learning techniques, like storytelling, game-based role-playing, CEL, restorative practices, and so forth. We'll do a recap afterwards. So in case you haven't noticed, we are basically going through the 8 limbs of yoga, which lies in the foundation of Anandamarga culture and practices. But we will actually cover even other practices which are not explicitly mentioned in the 8. So unit 5 will cover pranayama, breath control. Session 13 is on cultural philosophical context of this breath control, what it is, historical context. And the next one is scientific aspects, and you can say physiology of breath control or pranayama. Unit 6 will cover pratyahara, which is sense withdrawal. And we're going into practical applications and theoretical overview of pratyahara, guided exercises, how basically visualization works, and some brief theoretical review of its psychological and artistic aspects. And again, combined summary session to retain the knowledge. Going into unit 7, which is dharana concentration, cultural philosophical perspective on concentration, practical concentration, and we are finishing with samadhi, which is oneness, and philosophical cross-cultural views on samadhi, different altered states, concepts on different altered states in Buddhism, Christianity, yoga, possibly Kabbalah and Stoicism. There are, and experiential aspects of samadhi. So this is basically it. I think I've covered it. You're welcome to view the details. This is the flow. Duration is 30 to 45 minutes. Or I'm not able to edit it, but I'll do it later. Okay,
There's just a small
here
little
it is.
detail. The summations that you see sometimes are like 15 minutes long. They're usually going to be coupled in with the normal courses, but they're there mostly to help people figure out what we just did in a more practical sense. What they're basically, think of them as half a class rather than a full class.
What do you mean the half of class?
Well, the
Q&A, Q&A?
summations re-go through material that was already explained, but they do so in a slightly different manner, in a more practical way, just so that the students or the people engaging with the course have a place to, or a method by which to summarize information more specifically.
Okay, very good. Good, thanks. So we're gonna play from the current slide and now power through this. So session one plan is basically overview of the course. We've already done that, objectives, assessments, engagement. You're welcome to interact. We're kind of limited of time, so we'll have to be more concise in everything. So the theme for today is what is Tantra history, meaning, and context. We've overviewed that already, and you guys are all experienced, more or less. Max, you can get experience living with Madhurya, and just brief introduction overview of 8 limbs of yoga and IM practices. But we mostly done that, so I'll just power through that, and I'll share the references with those of you who are interested. So what is Tantra? We'll start with history. History of Tantra, no one knows, right? History is a subjective science. We have perspective, we have different scholars saying different things, different school of thoughts. Who knows the truth? I don't know the truth. According to Sri Shanandamurti and scholars who kind of align themselves with Ananda Marga school of thought, namely Ramesh Bjorns, this content is created by him. He is one of the scholars with the New Humanist College of Asheville. He's outlined this timeline. So you can say, according to this one, Proto-Tantra starts 9 to 5,000 years BCE. You can read about it. It's like kind of before even the birth of Shiva, different kind of practices created by Dravidians and Mongolians. You can read about more of it. I'm not gonna go into details. Then we have Shiva, 5000 BCE, who's really outlines the concept of Dharma, namely rudimentary yama niyamas, who shares the teachings, secrets of success, values and virtues, so on, and basic practices which he teaches to his disciples and the yogic lifestyle, and so on and so forth. Then pretty much many things happen. We have Krishna, 1,500 years to 700 years BCE, who basically outlines karma, which is the yoga of action, bhakti, yoga of devotion, and jnana, yoga of knowledge, and so on and so forth. And we have Patanjali, who is officially considered the father of yoga, who outlines the 8 limbs of yoga as we know it today. Lots of things happen, and then basically in the previous century we have Shishandamurti. In the 20th century, he outlines all of the things. This is just very long quote, which I'm not going to go into much detail. You're welcome to read this. It's from the book by him, which I will quote in the end. I'm not sure. I'm going to read what it's called. But basically, just kind of capitalizing on this idea that yoga was born kind of officially by all scholars 200 years BCE for sure. It was kind of not born, but kind of summarized, and Yoga Sutras were created by him. So, yeah, I'm not gonna repeat myself on the goals of yoga. You're welcome to read about it later on. But here's an interesting idea. There are 3 ways that people try to see the history of yoga, 3 schools of understanding. So most Western and Indian academics hold the view that India was invaded by Vedic Aryan settlers around 1900 BC. And these Aryans worshipped the sun god Surya and brought with them the Rig Vedic religion and also the Rig Vedic verse, one of the first sutras. And this religion was largely based on sacrifices and ritualistic worship. The second one was basically Western scholars like Feuerstein and Frawley, and as many others Indian writers, especially within the fundamentalist Hindutva movement, describe this theory that there was never this Aryan invasion, and that yoga came solely from the Vedic tradition. And this is called the one river theory. I'm not going to go into much details. The last one is called the two river theory, and the idea is that history of yoga represents a blend of the Tantric and Vedic traditions of India. And according to the Puranic history, as well as recent genetic science discoveries, the Vedic Aryans arrived in India in an early age, most likely as early as 7 to 500 BC, 5,000 years BC. Therefore, the blending of the Vedic and Tantric Shaiva cultures of India had already matured by the time the Indus civilization was depopulated around 2,000 years BC. So this is from the book Sacred Bodies, Sacred Spirit, and I will mention another one which I personally read in more details. But this idea that Shishanandamurti also says that basically Tantra is not a religion; it's more like a movement, a spiritual tradition, and it's an amalgamation of different cultures that were present at the time, because the modern day India was like vast with different cultures, religions, and ethnographies. But anyways, if you want to really read it, if you're really curious about the actual history, I implore you to read this one. Now, the functional meaning of Tantra, you all know it, so I won't really go into detail. Is basically comes from the root tam and tan and tra. So tan means staticity, tra that liberates. So it's not only a spiritual practice, really. It's really a developmental approach to life. It's overcoming all kinds of limitations and staticities. So it's pro-life, pro-growth, pro-development, and against any sorts of stagnation and lethargy. So it's an approach, it's a holistic approach to life. So you can see, you can see it cross-cultural, this kind of vigor. So we can say that Stoic culture or Stoic philosophy is very much a tantric in this respect, or scientific discovery, pursuit to develop one's mind, to expand the periphery of knowledge, to deepen our understanding, any kind of a genuine research to further civilization and quality of life is all tantric endeavor. So going further, it's like you can say the goal of it is self-realization and service to all, as like the grand you can say super objective of this entire approach to life. It was given by Shiva 5,000 years BC, and this is a graphic symbol of or yantra Tantra, basically. So you all know it. What it means. The upward facing one is the expansion. The downward facing is the inner search. All right. So I'm not going to go into much details about this particular aspect of Tantra, which is, you can say, pedagogy, which is like relationship between teacher and student. But it's worthwhile to mention that the relationship between teacher and student is key. It is key because, especially at the time when it originated, it was largely an oral tradition. So all the lessons, all the teachings come come respectfully from a teacher, from a deserving teacher to a deserving student, only strictly, secretly, to preserve the sanctity of this knowledge and to kind of prevent all further distortions of this knowledge. So that's why for a very long time there were no tantric books or tantric texts. But however, with the inception of writing, script, and everything, they started to record it so people can preserve this knowledge. So, and that the tantric you can say philosophy, school, and practice do not go extinct. So in terms of the types and role of teacher in Tantra, generally, culturally, it's said that there are three types of preceptor or teacher. So the inferior kind of teacher, the mediocre teacher, and the superior. So the inferior type is that they deliver very like high resounding speeches, but they do not bother whether disciples follow or not, whether they succeed or not. Mediocre preceptors impart knowledge to the disciples, no doubt, and also check on whether the disciples are following their teachings or not. But they are not too demanding. And superior preceptors of the highest caliber take meticulous care to ensure that their disciples follow their teachings. If they discover that they are negligent in any way, they compel them to practice more painstakingly by applying circumstantial pressure. So that's a very interesting approach, which is interesting, especially in the West, where we see that pedagogy is way more relaxed. But in some more traditional pedagogies, like you can say Eastern, like for example Chinese or Asian cultures or post-Soviet cultures, you will see that teachers are usually more stern, and the relationship is more, you can say, transmissional, in the sense that the teacher is like higher and the student is lower, and they have greater respect for them, which I'm not saying is the absolute greatest way to do it, but it has those deep roots. So yoga, you all know what yoga is, and the 8 limbs of yoga, we all know them. That yama, external self-conduct, niyama, internal self-conduct, asanas, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana, samadhi. So all of those, you can see the English translations. I'm not going to go into any details. It's a holistic lifestyle for all-round development. So everything is clear. Yeah, so some quotes on it. In truth, there is neither purity nor impurity. Therefore, he who is free from such notions is happy. So very interesting quotes here. So mostly the sources are these ones: the book Sacred Body, Sacred Spirit, A Personal Guide to Wisdom of Yoga and Tantra. The second one is more in-depth look at Tantra. And the third one is the one in perspective by a respected scholar. Actually, the third and the fourth. So this is pretty much it. Now, the last thing that I want to do is to really overview the 6 lessons of Ananda Marga, and pretty much and then share the sources with us. Are we okay with time? It's 9:33. So if I take 7 minutes to do that, because it's a long introduction, is it okay with everyone? Should I do that? Or should I just narrate the resources and then we just have a Q&A for 5 minutes?
I feel like looking over the sources can be done in like 5 minutes, and then that should be enough.
But do we skip this part or we don't skip this part? Do we want to oversee those, overview these the practices?
I would prefer to know. I don't know, how about Japesh and Marina?
Yeah, I would like an overview. So Marina is
Okay.
the tiebreaker.
Okay, Marina.
Go ahead.
All right. So I will not really go into much details, but just try to power through for this. So the sadhana lessons in Ananda Marga, there are, you can say, at least 2 types of yoga that I know. One is called prarambhika, three. One is called prarambhika yoga, which is like preliminary or elementary yoga, which is like pre-6 personal lessons and pre-initiation. And then there is sahaja yoga, which is simple kind of yoga, which includes 6 lessons and initiation, formal initiation. And Vishesh yoga is only reserved for people who are like really, really established in all other kinds of yoga. Not many people do it. Here it says the 4 types of yoga include Vishesh, Sahaja, Sadharana, and Prarambhika. So Sahaja is a system of 6 lessons that make up the path meditation system. These lessons include 8 parts of Ashtanga Yoga and moral principles and so on and so forth. So Prarambhika is very like preliminary, Sadharana and Vishesha is very elaborate and complicated. I'm not sure about Sadharana. So the most important one that everybody practices after they get initiation is Sahaja Yoga. So the first meditation lesson is called Ishvara Pranidhana. So the first lesson that every Ananda Margi does like twice a day, it's the formal meditation practice, which is mentioned in Yama Niyama. It's like the 10th morality principle. It's kind of taking shelter in the supreme is the actual translation from Sanskrit. The second lesson is called Madhu Vidya. So it means honey, knowledge. Madhu means honey, Vidya means knowledge, benevolent knowledge. It uses a special mantra to remind us that every action is a vibration of the cosmic consciousness. One becomes free from the shackles of ego, a person relinquished control of one's false self. All actions become infused with the nectar of the true understanding that everything happens according to the cosmic will. The third lesson is called Tattva-dharana, which is each chakra is visualized and its vibratory characteristics are also spoken, uttered by a practitioner. And these techniques increase concentration, help to control the activities of all levels, all the chakras, and regulate the flow of energy in the body. And the special technique of concentration technique, special pose, and special mantra is used to help concentrate. The fourth lesson is called pranayama, which is like energy control, breath control. The fifth lesson is called chakra shodhana, or the purification of chakras. So chakras are the controlling points of the body and mind, and shodhana means purification. So they're purified by the use of one's mind, concentration, and applying a mantra in a special way. And the last lesson is called dhyana, which is pure contemplation. So when there is complete merging with the goal of spiritual meditation. So these are the six lessons that after initiation, individuals received one by one in due time. And other practices, or supplementary but equally important, especially this one, like kirtan. We all know what kirtan is, singing the name of the Supreme. Another one is Dharma Chakra, or collective meditation, which is like really moving together, concentrating on something benevolent and trying to organize society again around the benevolent idea of unifying unifying around a sentient idea. Then yoga poses, you know what they are. And Kawashaki is a dance that was introduced by Shishinamurti that is basically to help develop all the layers of the mind. Kosha from Sanskrit means layer. So it is said that it has like restorative effects, 22 of them, and promotes longevity, ensures easy and safe childbirth for women, and makes the spine flexible. Tandava is a more vigorous dance only for brothers or men, and it's an exercise that has a beneficial effect on physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Gives stamina, strength, and courage to a practitioner. So further down the road, we will overview these practices through the lens of science, biology, neuroscience, and psychology, different branches. So this is basically it. Now, the sources or resources, for those who are interested, the Tantric history, this is an article, Hartley. So it's basically I recommend the second one, really. It's the overview of the Tantra as a tradition. There's this one, Goodall, Hartley, on Shaivism and Tantric essays, but it's really, if you're interested, it's very niche. The History of Philosophy is a brief history of yoga, from its tantric roots to modern yoga studio. That's a very comprehensive book, which I read when it just began. It's a good one. I didn't read the details, but there's the second one by the same writer, Sacred Body, Sacred Spirit, Personal Guide to Wisdom of Yoga and Tantra. He kind of puts Tantra with some scientific perspectives and see how it kind of culturally is aligned with the modern day world. The third one is Tantra Illuminated, on the philosophy, history, and practice of timeless tradition. Then Impact of Tantra on religion and art. And then Tantra Path of Ecstasy, important introduction to Tantra. and Tantra of Yoga Sutras, Essential Wisdom for Living with Awareness and Grace. In terms of Tantra, Science and Modernity, there are books like called by Stroop Global Tantra. And this is an interesting book called Illness and Immortality, Mantra, Mandala, and Meditation. So you may find them interesting. Okay. So this is everything on my end. I think this is it. We can kind of conclude it. We are at 9:40. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we can conclude the session.
I would like her to go on the 8 limbs of yoga page, if possible.
Okay, I'm going there. Here it is.
Thank you. So the idea is that a practitioner follows these 8 directions. Is that my correct understanding of what this represents?
Well, 8 limbs are 8 parts of the lifestyle. Yeah, you can say directions, recommendations, practices. Yeah.
So what does sensory withdrawal exactly entail?
Well, you have to experience it. It's a technique of control, of regulating one's attention, which is used specifically in meditation. So limb 5 to 8, all of these pertain to formal meditation practice. So once you learn meditation, the first step is learning to do sensory withdrawal. In Sanskrit, they are so-called shuddhis, or purifications. So there are 3 main ones: purification of the environment, withdrawing one's mind from the environment, from the body, and from the you can say thoughts and feelings. So I'm not sure if withdrawal is the right word to use per se, but pratyahara means literally, if translated from Sanskrit, without food. So learning to kind of withdraw one's attention. So this is the preliminary step. When we kind of study this one in comparison to different, for example, cognitive psychology, it will be interesting to look in this because, some unwanted states like depersonalization, derealization that people in the experience.
So that's something I would like to look into more just right now in terms of questioning. Because
yeah, of course, not right now.
Yeah, just a general dip in the water. So my understanding was that there was many different ways of meditating in Tantra in general. And I want to understand the different methods, or at least the different ideas of how you go through 5 through 8 through each of these different meditation methods. Currently, I'm aware of 2. Both of them I know from other sources. I know a meditation method where I just literally close down as many of my senses as I can. And another one that, for instance, I know from Marina, where it is about concentrating on a point and then keep that concentration as long as possible. But the 2 methods I'm currently aware of is, I think, just a small fraction of what's currently available from, for instance, the general, let's say, current, right? So which ones am I missing in terms of knowledge?
Well, the quantity is not important. It's more about the quality. So I've kind of explained the basic ones that we do. So in Ananda Marga, those who do not have initiation can do general meditation technique, which is described by any practitioner or teacher who has some experience, which is basically what Marina or Madhuvidi explained to you. Others include kirtan. It's considered a type of meditation. But once the person gets more and more interested in different ways to regulating their attention and deepen their practice, That's when initiation becomes indispensable, because initiation is a gate to receiving a personal, how do you say, more regulated meditation, more complete. You'll get your description of how to do each shuddhi, or the level of sense withdrawal, and you get to understand what is your personal point of concentration, and you get to understand what's the personal mantra that will work for your personality.
Oh, I see.
Just
So it's personalized to the person and their level of commitment.
it is personalized, because everybody's path is different, and everybody's level of commitment is different, and everybody's lifestyle is different, and has to be suited. That's why I said the teacher must be deserving, and the student must be equally deserving and ready, and they must formulate what they want.
Interesting. Okay, well, that explains the discrepancy then, because what I've heard is mostly someone else's interpretation of what they got taught, but didn't actually bridge the gap and explain that it's what they got and not necessarily what fits other people. Okay.
One thing I have not talked about is in the West and in the East right now, in the modern days, there are tons of misconceptions about what Tantra is, what is not. It's like reduced to the sexual practices, which it's not really. Anyways, and lots of misconceptions, lots of different gurus, lots of different teachers. But most important thing is, and another thing I think it's worth mentioning, it's largely an experiential practice. Experiential learning. It's all about doing. It's 99% doing and 1% theory.
Okay.
Anyways, this is it. We're over time, so I will cut us short here. Japesh, Modovidia, you good? Okay, I'll stop recording.